upcycle, I have noticed that there's a lot of scarves in thrift stores and in my closet, so I thought it'd be fun to challenge myself to see what else I could turn the scarves into. So I found some really beautiful scarves at my last visit to the thrift store, and I'm jumping on the Kimono inspired cardigan train, and so in this video I'm going to do two different styles of those kind of kimono cardigans. First one is going to be a short one, a little bit easier, and the second one is going to be a little more complicated, and it's going to use a couple of scarves. So Toronto right now is experiencing a bit of a heat wave, so if you hear any background noise, it's my fans. And not like my but like my fans, because it is so hot and I usually turn them off, but I can't, and I'm sorry. Okay, so anyways, let's jump in.
So here are our inspiration photos. I've got varying degrees of lengths for my kimono because I'm going to do two. But this scarf that I found was a perfect square. It's 54 inches by 54 inches, which is awesome. So I've just folded it in half, and I have put it so that the good sides are facing each other. So we're looking at the wrong side of the fabric. I did my best to fold it perfectly, and I really just want to line up the corners. So I am pinning a spot that is about, I think I did a little less than 12 inches. But basically that's going to be the part that I sew together to create the armholes. So you can play around with whatever length armhole or arm opening that you want to do. So I just pinned it, and then I am just sewing those sides together. Easy peasy, creating a nice seam. And then you do the same thing with the other side. And it's so great that we can speed things up. Zip, 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 zip. Beautiful. So now I've laid the scarf back out. And at this point now I'm just going to mark the center of the scarf, because we're going to make the opening for our body. So I've laid out the measuring tape, and I've marked where the center is. It's about 27. So I'm putting some pins. You can also weight it with the fabric because scarves get super slippery. Sometimes it's a lot easier to just put the weights down. And then I'm marking it with my tailoring chalk to help me kind of keep it straight. And depending on the pattern of your scarf, it also makes it a little easier to see that you're making a perfectly straight line. And I'm sorry that I kind of went out of frame a bit here. There we go. And now the most important part is you only cut one layer. So we're just cutting to create the opening of the front of our kimono. And you just super carefully cut all the way up the center. With this one I just kept it easy and just did a straight line. And then the kimono will kind of drape over your shoulders and keep it nice and easy. Now you could simply serge this if you have a serger, or you could just roll up a nice hem. I decided to do my favorite thing, bias tape, because it's so easy and makes such a clean, sharp edge. And this purple color is great, and it matches the scarf, which is awesome. So that's what I'm doing here, and I'm just going to pin that along and get it ready for me to sew. If you need a little bit more guidance with how to use bias tape, you can pop on over to episode 7 and jump to the 7 minutes and 45 seconds, and I walk you through a much more step-by-step process on how you can use bias tape like this, and it's a little bit of a slower demonstration on how to use it. So this is me. I've sewed one side, and now I've folded it over, and we're sealing off that lovely raw edge that I just created to make a nice finished seam. That will be the opening to our new kimono cardigan. And we're almost done. Easy peasy. This one does not take very long at all. And then this is just the sewing down of the final seam to close up our bias tape. And I'm just going to zip that all the way around, because I just used the bias tape for the seam that we cut down the center, so up one side and down the other, and then we're done. Look at that! Kimono cardigan complete! And so with the perfect square, it kind of, you can wear it so it sort of drapes longer in the back, and you could tie it around and put a belt on it if you wanted to. There's tons of fun things you could do. I kind of like it just sort of draped open. Yeah, cool beans! Alright, on to the next one. So with this one, these two scarves, the first one was very long and narrow, was about 94 inches by 34 inches. It's basically like a big rectangle. So it was so unbelievably slippery. It took me a long time to get it to a point where I could fold it in half and mark the center. So I decided to use a basting stitch to sew right down the center, so that way I don't have to worry about the pins popping out on me. So you can see I used red thread so that I could see it and it would stay put. So we've marked the center on the long scarf. That's going to be our body. So here I'm cutting the sleeves. So this is going to be both sleeves. And I've been strategic in how I cut it so that I can keep the rolled hem of the scarf to be the end of my sleeve. Because it was finished so nicely, I wanted to keep that intact. There's no point in me trying to redo something if it's already there. So I think I made them about 16 inches wide. And then I just cut off that little bit there. And then from that, I'm going to cut it in half. And I believe, yeah, I opened it up and then folded the other way, just to be complicated, because I want to make sure that I am sewing the cut edge into the arm, into the sleeve of the garment, again, to keep the rolled edge on the end. So you can see here, I'm just weighting it, and then I'm snipping it up the center, because that snip right there is going to be sewn into the rest of the cardigan. Yeah, I'm folding it in half. So you can see that nice rolled edge there is going to be the bottom of my sleeve. So now I'm taking my cut sleeve and I've marked the center of it and I'm lying them on top of each other so their good sides are facing each other, good side to good side. Center line to center line. Oh, my head's in the way there, sorry. And then I'm going to sew that along. So I kind of did this so that I could do straight lines because the silk is so slippery, and you can see that when I'm trying to cut it, it floats around because all my fans are going too. I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit of a headache, and it took a lot of finessing, but it's worth it. So there we see that we've sewn that sleeve in. So do the same thing to the other one. Once you have both sleeves sewn in, I have folded it in half, so there's my basting stitch, the red thread there, and I'm lining up my sleeve so that we can see the rectangles. Lots of rectangles. A little rectangle and then the big rectangle. So now I'm going to pin along the inside of the sleeve, and I'm lining it up right in the armpit first to make sure that all aligns. And then I'm going to go back in and pin everything together. It was so slippery. I know things moved on me, and to be perfectly honest, I had to unpick some stuff and redo it, but we left that footage out. It's very difficult, so you kind of have to take your time and know that you might have to repin things and make do as things start to wiggle. The sleeves, I should say, is not a silk scarf; it's a polyester scarf, but it's still really slippery. It's like almost like a chiffon material. And so you can see that I've pinned it and I've left about 6 inches at the bottom because I'm going to allow myself to have a little bit of a slit. And then you just very carefully sew your way up that seam and around down the arm. And you may have noticed that the back or one side of the body of my cardigan is a little longer. It did start to slip and I just eventually went with it. So the back of my, you can see down at the bottom, is about 2 inches longer. And so I'm just going to put it in the back. That's fine. Can be a little bit longer. So now I'm using weights to hold it down. We've got our arm sewn in and down the side, but we don't have a way to wear it. So I'm weighting down the center, and you can see I'm marking a center line with my chalk. And oh, there comes the fans. Look at those fans go. Ay, ay, ay. And then just like the other one, you got to be careful. You're only cutting the one layer, and you're going all the way up the center. And with this one, I decided to cut out the shape around the neck a little bit so that it would sit a little bit nicer on my shoulders. Yeah, that fan just like went crazy. If you have a serger, serge that raw hem. I do not have a serger at this point, so I am using a zigzag stitch on my old faff machine to stop the fabric from starting to fray. So this is what this is. That was just me doing the raw edge. And I decided again, surprise, surprise, I used bias tape, which I found in a beautiful lavender color. And I originally was just going to go around the neckline, just to kind of clean it up and give it a little bit of weight to kind of hold it on my shoulders. But you'll see after I decided to do this part, and you guys are pros at sewing bias tape at this point, so I don't need to see all of that. But I sewed the bias tape all the way around the neck and the bit of the shoulders, and I decided it didn't quite look right. It needed to go a little bit further. So I ended up adding about another 10 inches or so down the front. And I originally was hoping maybe taking some of that leftover fabric from that one scarf and making a nice collar, but oh, this fabric, it just moved around so much that I decided to just stick with the bias tape. Yeah, so I can see a snip it off to make a nice angle. In hindsight, if I knew I was going to do this, I probably would have just done one nice big piece of bias tape, but I may play around with adding a little bit of a ribbon or something right at the point or at the corner where those two pieces could potentially meet. And here we go. So the sleeves were very long, so I just cuffed it. So I rolled it up about 3 or 4 inches, and then I was just going to hand tack it down. So I don't have to do a full seam all the way around like a hem. I still want it to be a little bit flowy and didn't want to weight it down too much. So I just did a few tacks all the way around the cuff to kind of hold it up, but still let it be easy breezy. And there we go. Our full-length maxi cardigan. Though the silk was difficult to sew, it turned out pretty groovy and it's pretty awesome to wear in the end. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, please do subscribe to the channel, and you can always come and hang out with me over on Instagram at Wallace Read. And if you do, please drop me a DM and say hi. Until next time, see ya!